It's been like this for a while now, but it seems like now more than ever, a lot of people are missing those old classic skunk strains. You know, the ones that are famous for producing that pungent aroma that absolutely reeks through a triple bag seal? Today, I'd like to discuss why people miss those strains so much, what makes those strains so special, how that aroma is produced in those plants, and what makes them different from today's cultivars. Stay tuned for more. Yo! Welcome to Non-News Flowers, where we discuss everything from germination, cultivation, post-harvest, and more. And today, we're going to be discussing skunky cultivars and what produces that smell in those plants to begin with. As you may know already, the main driving factor behind the aroma in cannabis is terpenes. And terpenes are basically found in all sorts of herbs, flowers, fruits, basically anything that you can find in nature. The smell is due to terpenes. Now, aside from terpenes, there are sulfur-based organic compounds called thiols. And thiols are exactly what are responsible for that pungent, rotten egg, foot type of odor, dead roadkill skunk type of aroma. And now when you're dealing with plants that produce a high level of thiols and also a high level of terpenes, and you mix those two together, they essentially come together to form that classic cannabis smell where it's that roadkill kind of skunk and you can smell it 3 blocks away. And I can understand why a lot of people miss that stuff. Unfortunately, due to the rules and regulations at that time, a lot of people moved away from those skunk type of strains because of the fact that they were a dead giveaway that you were growing in your space. And as time went on, people didn't really breed for aroma as much as they did to try to mitigate the smell and get rid of that altogether. So nowadays you see strains that don't produce that many thiols, if at all, and they're more on the sweet desserty side, and you're missing a lot of those natural classic compounds that used to be present in a lot of plants back in the day, and they've just been phased out due to breeding, rules and regulations at the time, and growers wanting to be low-key and not thrown in jail essentially. So unfortunately, we lost a lot of those stock genetics from back in the day. But I truly don't believe that this is the end for skunk genetics. There's tons of strains nowadays that are famous for producing that skunk smell. And now while every geno or phenotype might not produce that particular skunk smell that you remember from back in the day, you might have to do some digging, hunt through a selection, see which ones fit those characteristics, backcross them, and work your way through the line. And I'm really hoping that we can come back to a time where we can see those skunky strains back in the mainstream again, because they did have certain effects and qualities to them that were very different from today's cannabis. Skunk was popularized not only for its aroma, but for the quality effects that it had, where it was very psychedelic. You'd be laughing with your friends for hours, and it just had a certain type of vibe to it that was very special, but unfortunately a lot of people were caught due to it. So back in the day, you can understand why that really wasn't worth it to them in terms of keeping those cultivars around, and they wanted to shift out of it. So now we're finding that a lot of people, especially my age and up, and I'm turning 32, there's a lot of people who just miss those classic cultivars, and they want to bring that back and taste a little bit of that nostalgia that they had from back in the day. And I have to admit myself, we don't have it super terrible nowadays where just everything's just the worst. There was a lot of bag seed back in the day. There's a lot of brickweed and just like undesirable stuff that you would see a lot of the time, and it was either that or you couldn't consume anything. So I do understand that position, but I also understand the connoisseur position of wanting to be able to have those varieties available again, because it's really special to us, and being able to taste those varieties and bringing it back to that time where we could back in the day, it's very important. And not only for that, but certain effects that they could produce. I really feel that a lot of the cannabis that's available nowadays, it just isn't a true representation of how great cannabis really can be. And that's because of the fact that we've again shifted towards the desserty type of profiles. They don't produce as much of an effect. They just don't have that same feel that a lot of those skunky OG kind of cultivars that we had back in the day had. Now, skunk and OG are totally different. I'm not trying to lump the two together, but I'm just referring to the time period and how we had really, really special effects, and each strain had kind of like their own vibe. And nowadays it just feels like everything feels the same. If you know what I'm talking about, definitely hit that like button down below. I know that there's a lot of people who know what I'm referring to, and it's unfortunate, but I'm really hoping with all the passionate people in our community, we can definitely bring back those genetics, and we can really have them in the forefront again through breeding, backcrossing, and working the line with specific plants, genophenotypes that are known for those skunky smells, producing high levels of thiols, and have certain terpenes that really bring us back to that classic skunk smell from back in the day. Now, there are certain cultivars that are still available for growers to seek through, hunt out, and see if they match those certain characteristics for that skunk spray type of smell. So we have the super skunk, we have the roadkill skunk, there's cheese, which is actually supposed to be a skunk phenotype that just came out a little more cheesy. So if you have access to any type of cheese crosses, or we're talking about breeders like Humboldt CSI who have the cheese S1, because you know those genetics really stem back to those cultivars. Always do your research in terms of the breeders that you're looking at. And another honorable mention would be the Hog's Breath that I recently learned about by Kevin Jodrey, who's a well-known person in our space who's been hunting through those selections to find that skunk phenotype. So what are your thoughts on skunky strains? Definitely drop a comment down below. In today's age, we have a market that prioritizes desserty type profiles over those more classic cannabis type smelling ones like the skunk spray, OG, Trainwreck, things of that nature, but especially the skunk one that's been heavily phased out through breeding, loss of stock genetics, raids, and all sorts of other factors. But at the same time, we still do have cultivars that people can hunt through, and I'm really hoping that throughout the process we can hunt through them and find some that really reflect those characteristics of the original skunk from back in the day. If you know of any strains that are famous for that skunk smell and you've grown them out, maybe they're more low-key and a lot of people don't know about them, definitely drop them in the comments below as well. If you're into classic cultivars, I really like to explore and discuss ones that are more nostalgic and less present nowadays. And if you're into that, definitely hit that subscribe button as well. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace.